Hello, everyone. Welcome. My name is Denise Josvac, and welcome to the February 2026 Alliance of International Aromatherapists monthly webinar. This webinar is hosted by the Education Committee in collaboration with the AIA Research Academy, which was made possible by a generous grant from the Gafase Foundation. Today is February 18th, and this webinar is number 240. So tonight's webinar is Latin Really? What's in a Name? Presented by Carol Scheidel and Nancy Lubin. Carol began her aromatherapy career in 2005 and led the aromatherapy program at a large Texas hospital for 11 years. Carol teaches evidence-informed clinical aromatherapy and M-technique, training in classroom and online settings, and consults with healthcare facilities. Her nursing background includes critical care, emergency nursing, education, leadership, and ethics. Carol's an internationally recognized educator and resides in Fort Worth, Texas. Nancy Lubin brings decades of interdisciplinary study, lived experience, and clinical aromatherapy training to her teaching and her practice. Her work is rooted in lifelong relationship with plants, creativity, and holistic health, shaped by early years on a wilderness farm in western Maine, and enriched through diverse paths, including textile design, maritime life, and integrative wellness education. Nancy was raised by a mother who insisted on learning the full Latin name for plants and has continued that practice. So welcome, Carol and Nancy, and thank you for presenting this important topic.
Thank you. It is indeed a pleasure to be here tonight and to share this. I tried to get Ann Harmon to do this, but she had too many things going on. So I'm thrilled to have you here in the audience because you can certainly join us and help out. And I roped Nancy into this because she's been my go-to person for botanical names, and has really truly helped me out. And I actually say most plant names correctly, not all of them, but she's always there to help if I need that. So Nancy, have anything to add before we start?
No, but 6 years of Latin in high school and a mother that insisted that we gardened with formal plant names certainly has me familiar. So, and even at that, people who grew up with church Latin will pronounce Latin differently than people who grew up with school Latin. So even at that, the pronunciation, you will hear different pronunciation depending on the culture that people come from. But at least Latin is a universal language for botanical identification, as long as you follow some of the stuff that Carol will tell you later.
And Nancy will show you or articulate. So
Yeah.
Also, this seems to be just all of a sudden a really hot topic. And I think part of it is because so many of the familiar plant names that we have been around and we grew up with have changed. And so we're going out there and we're finding out that there are different things. We're going to share with you tonight a bunch of changes, but that's not all of them. You will find more as you move along. So I'm going to share my screen and get kind of set up here. So let's hit this button. And if somebody can give me thumbs up, are you seeing
Yeah, we're here. Yeah, good.
Perfect. Okay, I'm going to get out this little thing that says to stop sharing. Get that out of the way, just in case that is seen on, sometimes it's seen on your screen. So hang on. I have 3 screens and they don't always play well with each other. So great. Okay. So Latin, really? What's in a name? Let's go take a look.
So why is Latin used for the botanical names of plants? In the very ancient times, the Chinese and Egyptian records identified plants for medicine. And then in the times of the Greeks, Aristotle and his student Theophrastus, known as the father of botany, initiated formal classification, mostly classifying plants by habit, by growing habit, trees, shrubs, herbs, form, you could say. And then there were the herbalists in the pre-Linnaean era. And then after that, especially as the Renaissance printing and botanical gardens became more more popular, people started to do more detailed studies. At that point, there were microscopes so people could check it out. And people were looking at plants often by their sexual reproductive processes. And then and they were able to figure out the difference between a monocot and a dicotyledon based on plant structure. That was in the kind of the microscope era. And what Linnaeus realized as they were beginning to build these huge lexicons of plant identification, that they needed to have something that was common. And the common language for the educated was Latin. So that was why he chose Latin for the botanical binomials. And then from there, they were able to increasingly classify plants, and continued on right through till now, where we have the modern molecular era, where we can classify plants by DNA. So we've gone from magnifying glasses, from magnifying glasses to microscopes to DNA. And that's the generic history of how we have been able to create distinct patterns of plant identification. And the way we do that is a classification system, which is called taxonomy. We have a domain, a kingdom, a phylum, a class, an order, a family, a genus, and a species. And for the most part, in aromatherapy, we look at family, genus, and species. If we need to know more, we can go back up that chain into order, class, etc. So that's how we are working in our profession. A typical example, one that we all know, is lavender. Common name, lavender. How many lavenders are there? Hundreds. So the big botanical name, Lavandula angustifolia. Some people say lavandula. Again, you're always going to get that change in pronunciation depending on who taught it to you or where you might have learned your Latin. The family is Lamiaceae, the genus is Lavandula, the species is angustifolia, and angustifolia has a meaning. The variety is Mayette, and the part that is distilled are flowering tops. Another familiar one to us, mandarin, common name. The botanical name, Citrus reticulata. Family, Rutaceae. Genus, citrus. Species, reticulata. Variety, blanco. Part used, peel. So why would we use the correct Latin binomial? Well, as a professional, you're identifying the specific plant you're talking about, and everybody will then know that it is the specific plant. You're going to use this whether you're speaking, so oral or written. It's really important that you use the correct Latin name. It avoids confusion, especially across areas where common names can be so different. A common name, even in the north and south of the United States, will be different for the exact same plant, not to mention across different countries. So it's a great way to be really clear about what plant you're talking about. And you can find out more about the plant by looking at the words that the Latin has to offer. So I've offered you a very minor Latin glossary. There are whole books full of these glossaries. So wouldn't hurt for you to find one to enjoy from the library now and again, but just to give you an idea. Angustifolia means narrow-leaved. Decumbens, trailing on the ground with tips up. Sacra, holy. Sempervirens, evergreen. Graveolens, strong-scented. Piper describes pepper, but pink peppercorn is Shyness, not piper. Nigrum, black. So you certainly have seen piper nigrum in terms of black pepper as an ingredient in one of yours as essential oil. Terebinthifolius, leaves smelling like turpentine. Quinquinerva, five-veined. So that might describe the leaves of a plant to help you be able to identify it. And then the ever-present counting system in Latin, I've only given you 5 here, but it usually goes up to 10. Uni, bi, tri, quattro, and quin. And those things will help you look for identifying aspects of the plants that you're looking for. Understanding the spelling to find out more about the plant. Citrus X aurantium, variety amorifol. Citrus X aurantium, variety amorifloss. Floss would be flower, fol would be foliage. Gaultheria procumbens, we were talking about procumbens in a slide before. So what we know about this particular plant is that it grows low to the ground with tips up. Pimenta dioica, allspice, and Piper nigrum, black pepper. So here we are, many of us don't have any Latin background. How are we going to dive into these sometimes very, very long words? It's not that easy. It's not that difficult. It's all you have to do is deconstruct the syllables. So you look at the words here in front of you and you just go slowly and go chrysopogon zin zanoides symbopogon citratus. You know, it sounds a little weird without my slowing down, but it gives you, but otherwise, if you start to try to go fast, you'll trip up, you'll add letters that aren't there. It just makes sense to slowly say them, you know, to yourself and then out loud a couple times before you have to say them in public so that you're not tripping over them. And then you get into botanical name changes, which is where Carol shows up in this process.
So a lot of the key reasons for the name changes, as Nancy described in the very first slide, is really about the DNA. The DNA analysis has changed things tremendously. It's now kind of like 23andMe or Ancestry. If you've done Ancestry DNA and you really find out who's in that family tree. Maybe there's some people in there that you didn't expect. And so now the botanists and the scientists are all having an opportunity to look at and analyze the plants from their DNA structure. And so things are moving, and we're going to see a lot more movement, I think, ahead. So that's probably the biggest piece that has changed things for us here in this modern age. There is a rule of priority, though, that if a plant was described by 2 different botanists, the International Code of Nomenclature, which we'll talk about in a little bit, states that the oldest validly published name must be used. So the first person who declared it, they become the namer. There's also reclassification, as a species may move from one genus to another, or more commonly, large, vague genres are split into several smaller, more accurate ones. And then there is also lumping or splitting. It's where the taxonomists may combine multiple formerly separated species into one by lumping, or they may split a single species into several distinct ones, which is known as splitting. So why does and when does a botanical name change? If there is new research that's published that verifies that it is corrected, then that happens. The International Botanical Congress occurs once every 6 years. The most recent was in Spain in July of 2024, and that was the 20th International Botanical Congress. They get together and hash out, talk about, find out where the science is, look at it, and then they publish a document that becomes the standards for what the naming nomenclature is. Prior to the Spain Congress, there was the previous one was in Shenzhen, China, which was in July of 2017. The next meeting is scheduled for July 2030, and I didn't find the location. So if somebody knows that, that would be great. But that is the International Association for Plant Taxonomy. And it takes them about a year to 18 months after the Congress in order to publish the document that supports what the Latin binomials are. Let me tell you a little story about rosemary that I just recently learned after reading a document of why rosemary got changed. So Rosmarinus officinalis is now Salvia rosmarinus. I think, hopefully, that's not a surprise for anybody here on this call, because it did happen some time ago. And that was probably the first time for me when it was like, oh my gosh, they changed a name. Why did they do that? So Dr. Prabhat Satyal posted an article on LinkedIn in April 5th of 2025. It is a public article. You can go out and I've got a link as part of the resources at the end. But during that, in that article, he shares with us that in 1997, botanist DJ Maberly proposed that Rosmarinus was not distinct enough to warrant its own genus. Based on morphology similarities, he placed it within the Salvia genus, the same group that includes sage. In 2017, that hypothesis was validated with DNA evidence. A team led by Byron T. Drew published a detailed phylogenetic analysis in the journal Taxon, showing that Rosmarinus is nested within Salvia. Their work provided the genetic proof needed to revise taxonomy. So Salvia rosmarinus, and there are a lot of varieties of rosemary. There is a form albiflorus, which is a white-flowered rosemary, Salvia rosmarinus, variety rosmarinus, form erectus, erect little branched form, Salvia rosmarinus, variety angustifolia. We heard about angustifolia before, so no surprise. Very narrow-leafed rosemary, Salvia rosmarinus, variety Lavandula lucas. I'm sure that Nancy's going to help me correct that. It's a lavender-scented rosemary, Lavender rosmarinus, variety pubes, a form roses, a hairy pink flowered rosemary, Salvia rosmarinus, variety rigorous, stiff form of rosemary. Dr. Satyal reports that in 2017, he did research and had the opportunity to study rosemary in depth and published on 5 distinct chemotypes found within the rosemary family. The work explores how chemical diversity appears within species that were once treated as a single plant. And I think we see that through several different species. So Nancy, I'm going to let Nancy take over so that she gives you the correct pronunciation. You're still muted.
A pronunciation in any case, my father would have said you have to have the emphasis on the right syllable. So just to make it fun. So the new Boswellia sacra, what we know as frankincense, was Boswellia carterii. What we knew as Cinnamomum camphora is now Camphora officinarum, Ravensara. Chrysopogon zinzinoides is what we know as vetiver, the synonym Vetiveria zinzinoides. Citrus ex limone, variety bergamia, is bergamot or bergamo, depending on where you live and how you say it. And we used to call it Citrus bergamia. What we used to call Eucalyptus citridora is now Corymbia citriodora, lemon eucalyptus. The old synonym Ravensara aromatica is now Cryptocarya, Agathophylla. And there's a good one to think, just take a good hard look at it. Agathophylla. There's no I in there. It's not phylia, it's phyla. And we know it as Ravensara. Cymbopogon citratus, lemongrass, used to be called Anthropogon citratus. And the old Inula graveolens is now Detrichia graveolens. And I looked it up. Detrichia is actually someone's name. It was named after a man named Dietrich. Hyssop officinalis is now Dracocephalum officinale. And we call that hyssop. The old Matricaria recutita is now Matricaria chamomilla, German chamomile or blue chamomile. Holy basil is now Ocimum tenuiflorum. It was Ocimum sanctum. And what we knew as blue tansy, Tanacetum annuum, is now Voctia annua. And I wonder if you look at the Ocimum tenuiflorum, if you can imagine what the tenuiflorum might mean. Anybody know what holy basil looks like? Oh, come on, somebody speak up. Unmute yourself.
Yes, it has little flowers on it.
It does have little flowers, but I'm guessing
a square stem.
We have purple, Carrie Ann said purple flowers.
Are a little jagged.
Yeah. It's a longer, narrow leaf.
All right.
Okay, are we moving on?
We're going to start up on Latin. There we go. All right. So what I do when I start to look at what's going on in the plant world is I search. And I try to search 3 to 4 to 5 different places, especially if I don't get the answers that I'm looking for. And yes, I do use Google. And sometimes that's where I start. So tonight we're going to start there. I'm going to stop this and go to where I have preloaded my internet sites. And let me get to my first one. So I looked up lemon verbena, and it came up with Aloysia citrodoria, right? I'd like, well, interesting. The other common name, lemon bee brush. So like, all right. And then I went to the medicinal plant name services. This is managed in the Kew, which is a huge garden over in the UK, in England. And this site has been my best site for trying to find botanical medicinal plants. They had the most and have consistently had the best service. So I put in lemon verbena and I got Aloysius citriodora. Nancy.
Oh, I can't read it, Carol. It's too small for me.
Palau with a hashtag over the
Palau. It's probably from the Palau Islands.
Is it from the islands? Anne?
Is that right, Anne?
You're on mute.
That's actually the authority, the
name,
the man,
the person?
Yeah, the person who
okay, great.
Had the type.
That is also, that's one of the things, if you don't already know that, it's very common and professional to give credit to the person who named it. If it's just an L, Mr. Linnaeus, way back when, gets credit for a lot of names. His name is in there. And sometimes you'll see his name in there with other people's names. So, but this is, and again, all of these sites are listed in this handout, and you will have access to it if you go to the AIA website. You'll get it off of either the research side or you'll get it off of the inside the AIA site. But if anybody has any trouble getting it, just let us know and we will help you. So, all right, I was like, yay, now I have something. So then I went to this one, which is the Integrated Taxonomic Information System. And I put in lemon verbena and I got Aloysia wrightii. And this is obviously somebody's name, but I was like, what the heck? Where did this name come from? And where is it in the food chain? So then I went to the International Plant Index and I got nothing. Zip, zero, nada. So let's see what we might get if I put in Aloysia. There we go. Oh, we're getting close. And it was, what was the rest of it? Because I didn't write it down.
Citrodora.
Oh, Citor, Citrodora. And let's see what happens. Come on, search. Don't tell me there's nothing. Oh, there is nothing there. Okay. No, that is it. Because as I was typing that, okay, we're going to let this one drop for a minute. Now we're going to go to the, this is the World of, is it the world? That's not the World Federation of Plants. I'm sorry, as I stumble over myself. This is one of the others, and I'm going to I'll put lemon verbena. Let's see if we can get it to go.
World Flora Online, Anne says. Thank you.
Yes, thank you. I don't have my cheat sheet up in front of me, so. And this is not going. I'm going to put in, let me see if I can get the, what was the other,
ALOYS
yeah, we can try that one. ALOYSIA.
IA.
Let's see. Whoops. Come on. ALO. Whoops. Now I'm way out. ALOY. There it is. There's Citriodora and there is Citrodora. Let's hit both of these. And there is lay. So
this is the one you got. This is the one you got from the other site.
Yeah. Yes. This is what
named by someone.
This was from the medicinal plant. And then this gives us a lot of the synonyms, other plants that are the same plant that is given other names. This is the formal name. And then these are synonyms considered similar to or other names that this plant has been called. So you can it's fascinating to go through this search process. I've got to let me find my PowerPoint. I think it's hiding down behind this. Put that one down. Yep. Let's go back up here. Here we go. So looking at a plant, this plant is known as lemon verbena. That's probably what we as aromatherapists know it as. But in the herbal world, it's also lemon bee brush, and it is herb Louisa. So it has several different names. I searched under lemon verbena, and that's what I came up with through each of those different sites. Here are the resources. And again, you don't need to copy these down because they will be in the handout unless you want, to take a quick picture of it so that you've got it. But these are the multiple places that you can go to find, including here is one US, the USDA, the World Flora Online, the Catalog of Life is another, and then the Integrated Taxonomic Information System is run by the Smithsonian. So that's why you have the .gov there. It is a United States site. So as we leave this is really the heart of where you're going to find your botanical names. And there's not a simple one place, but if, I would certainly start here, medicinal plant names services, so that you have that help. Google does pretty good, but they're not always up to date. I know I was searching as we were preparing for this, and I found some of the plants still had former botanical names versus the up to date. So making sure that you're, using multiple sources, just like AI. If you're using AI, you got to check what AI is telling you and make sure that that's really true. So don't just go with one single source. The other part we wanted to talk about and just share with you is, how do you write these darn names, and what is the best way to do that? So one of so this is the format or structure of writing botanical names. The genus is always capitalized. The species is always lower. Both words are always italicized. Just like for any of you in the medical world who you talk about viruses or something else, they're two names and they're italicized. So this, when you're writing something, when you're charting it, when you're putting it in a paper, you want to be sure that you've got the correct name and you're typing it out correctly. if you are working with a hybrid, it is designated with an X that is not italicized between the genus and the species. A variety is not always named, but should be. If you have that information, that is important because it really tells the person who's reading or looking at what you are providing, what is this? You know, like there are hundreds of lavenders and there are hundreds of lavandula angustifolia. And so if you don't have the variety in there, you know, it's like, are we taking Walmart's aspirin? Are we taking Bayer aspirin? Are we taking some other well-defined? And so, sorry, my nurse side of me comes out and you get meds.
Yeah, and I just want to say that I had Carol bold this X so that you could see that
Yeah.
it is genus X species. But if you were writing it, it would not be bold.
Correct.
It's
Yeah,
just,
and
I just wanted you to be able to see where it lives in that written
yeah.
form.
I'm going to show you an example in just a second. Chemotype also. Chemotype is CT pretty much across the board. It's the lowercase letters CT. Once in a while, I will see somebody put a period in there. And it is not italicized. And the name of the chemotype is not italicized. So we're going to give you a couple of examples so you can see this. So peppermint. Peppermint is crossbreed. It mentha X, not italicized, not bolded. Pepperita. Lamiaceae I.
Yep.
Oh, good. Mentha is the genus. Pepperita. It is a cross between watermint, Mentha aquatica, and spearmint, Mentha spicata. And the part that we get the essential oils from is the leaves. And then in the chemotype world, so hopefully everyone knows what a chemotype is. A chemotype is similar plants that look visually identical but have different chemical constituents. So as you're making a choice of what essential oil you're using, if you're using an oil that has chemotypes, it is critical to report the chemotype because that changes the whole chemistry as to what oil you've added to something. So basil, which is Ocimum basilicum, is known for chemotypes linalool, estragol, and eugenol. And so on this example, you have Ocimum basilicum, chemotype linalool. Eucalyptus, there's two distinct varieties. And so you have Eucalyptus globulus and you have Eucalyptus radiata. Eucalyptus radiata is it got its own classification. And Eucalyptus globulus would also be listed as a separate. But here you have Lavandula X intermedia. So this is the crossbreed between Lavandula angustifolia and Lavandula latifolia. And there are 4 chemotypes in this currently in this essential oil or plant. So you have chemotype super, which is high in esters, Grosso, which is high in alcohols, Radovan, which is high in camphor, and Abrialis, which is a good mixture of all. I had the opportunity one time to be able to purchase all 4 of these essential oils, and it was phenomenal to be able to smell the differences. And I really love the Abrialis. It is a very delightful. There are many people who love super. It's got the high in esters, but it is a combination of both latifolia and angustifolia as they come together. And then lemon balm, Melissa. It can be rich in citral or citronellal. And so knowing which which Melissa are you using is very important. Salvia rosmarinus, here's our rosemary again, and the different plants are identical, but again, you're into different chemotypes. And common chemotypes, 1,8-cineol, camphor, verbenone. So depending upon which one, and in the story about rosemary, you heard about a bunch of other chemotypes. Thyme, Thymus vulgaris, has thymol, linalool, carvacrol, geraniol, or thugenol. And all of those are very different with the amounts of phenols that are in them versus the amount of alcohol, which the Thymus vulgaris chemotype linalool is going to be the one that has the lowest amount, or is the most gentle with the greatest amount of alcohols in it. So, what's in a name is really important. It tells you a lot. If I just told you that I had Salvia rosmarinus, and I didn't tell you which rosemary I was putting into a product, I might be choosing the wrong one, not knowing what the chemistry of that one is. So caution. Let's see. We just went over this, but just a little more detail looking at thyme again. Thyme, chemotype, linalool, common name, no italics, botanical name, Thymus vulgaris. In italics, not in italics, is CT chemotype, linalool. Lamiaceae, Thymus is the genus, vulgaris is the species, and then this just gives you an example, tells you which are the different chemotypes there are. Okay, we have boogied along. We're going to have to get some more conversation going here. There are resources here. This was this is Dr. Prabod's article. So if you can't find it on LinkedIn but this will take you right there. This is a book. Nancy, you want to share a little about this book?
I don't have a whole lot to say. I at one time had borrowed several large volumes of books about botanical Latin from the library. And they were definitely academic books. And I thought I might, I don't know, write an article or do something serious with them. And then as it turns out, I was just headed home one day by going by my local one of the tiny libraries, like literally a one-room schoolhouse. I live way out in the country. And they were having a book sale, and I thought, oh, well, I'm just going to stop and see what they have at a book sale. Check this out. Gardener's Latin, cute little coffee table retail book. Couldn't be cuter. Actually, Barbara Damrosch did the introduction to this, and she is one of our local celebrities. She's a nationally known, probably internationally known gardener. What's so wonderful about this book is that it is literally a dictionary. Just goes letter by letter. It has thousands of, you can't see it, but thousands of Latin names describing the growing habits of plants. And it's really, it is a gardener's Latin versus an aromatherapist Latin, but it still is a way to begin to understand why we use Latin to identify the plants we're working with. And of course, as we learn more and more as we get further into the wilderness in so many places, we're learning more and more about plants. Truthfully, we're learning more about plants as some of the ice recedes, and we're finding more plants. So it's really important to be able to say more about the plant with a formal naming system. And that way we're the globe, just the world's getting smaller. So it's important to have a language that we all agree on.
And then here's two others. The International Plant Name Index, and which is one of our websites. And then also the International Code of Nomenclature, which is published after the big conference. So this was the Madrid. This was the conference that was just recent, and it was is published and is available. I'm going to stop sharing. Oh, wait, I'll give the closing slide. There we are. And then I'm going to stop sharing so we can have any kind of conversation. So anybody who has, are we back? Yeah. All right, good. So anybody who has anything to share, add, if any corrections, please help us out. We're here because this was just such a huge topic of interest, particularly for me. And as I said earlier, I roped Nancy into joining me. So I would love to share thoughts, words. Oh my gosh. Like I didn't know that, or I did know that, or did we shock you with anything? So unmute yourself and join the conversation.
I think you guys did a great job.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anne.
Anything to correct? Is there?
I would only clarify one thing that probably only means something to taxonomists, but it gets varieties in taxonomy are very specific. But when you were talking about Blanco, I think you were talking about a citrus,
right.
Blanco.
Yeah. Yes.
Those are cultivars. So those are what are called cultivated varieties. And those are not recognized as botanical varieties. So they are different.
That's really interesting. I didn't know that.
Yeah, so super grosso, those are cultivars. Those are so, and when you talk about varieties of angustifolia,
Yeah.
there are no botanically taxonomy wise. I'm talking about, we're getting nitpicky, but in taxonomy, variety and subspecies are very specific, and there are no varieties or subspecies of angustifolia, Levangula angustifolia, but there are hundreds of cultivated varieties.
Yeah.
And those are what we get our Mayette and Hidcote, and all of those are cultivated varieties.
So how do you know what the how you write that?
Yeah, so you can either write them with a CV, V is in Victor, so for
So like cultivated variety, CV.
Correct, CV, and just like you did the chemotype, or you can put them in parentheses. So either way is acceptable. So CV Mayette or Mayette in not italicized in parentheses. And interestingly enough, and I can't find, it's impossible to find the book on it, but there's actually a book on, it's a whole different group of people that keep track of registered cultivated varieties, just like the nomenclature naming thing. They've got a whole nother society that takes care of all that.
Well, it's helpful. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Anne.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So are you all comfortable with how you will write a botanical name? Because get your CEs, you got to go in and take the little quiz. And I want you to be really good at writing the name. So, okay.
Hi, I'm Carol and Nancy. This is Ronnie.
Hi, Ronnie.
Nancy, I didn't know you could speak Latin so well.
Yeah, sometimes
I need
really.
some lessons.
Man, I couldn't even when my mom and I would ride horses in the woods, I'd go, "Oh wow, look at that beautiful purple leaf," and she would just spout out this really long name, and it was like, "Oh, mom."
Yeah. Well, this was very, very informative. My mind is blown, especially with the change with rosemary and blue tansy. The article project that I'm working on through the Research Academy, there was at least two oils that I know that I'm gonna have to change the name when I put the recipe in the article. So this is very informative. I do have a question. Is there a way that the that we're notified when these changes occur, that we need to look out for, or you all just have to do another call later on to keep updating us?
I think you need to just take that list that Carol list the resource that's at the end of the slide deck, and just as you're writing an article, just at least go to the Kew Gardens website at the very least, because they are really considered to be the world repository of botanical science. I mean, I'm sure there are other places that do it, but they're the ones in the Western world that we're familiar with. And I think it's just a good way to double check yourself, and it's a good way to really show ourselves. I think, aromatherapy, we want to be taken seriously as aromatherapists. And the way we will be taken seriously is to be up to date and as clear and clean as in our Latin as we can be.
I agree.
So I was trying to put in this link to that website, but right now it's not playing well with me. There we go. It's in there now.
So there are a couple of things in the chat.
Yep.
How often do changes occur? My guess is that when somebody decides.
Every 7 years, and if or if there's a publication that is able to show the changes. So what was because when I looked this up, that
Well,
was
you said 6 years between Shenzhen and the next one, right?
yep between the Madrid and the next one. So, Anne, do you have any information on that?
So the what you're talking about, that conference, that's not who actually changes the names.
Okay.
That's just the rules. So it's the global rules for how names, all the rules for naming. But how a name gets changed is it gets published in recognized journals. And so once they're published and the other taxonomists agree with it, then that becomes the accepted name. And sometimes it can take 10 years. I mean, like what you were talking about with that article on rosemary, someone was pointing it out back in 1997, but it took years before the consensus agreed with them.
Yeah,
So
20 years.
it can take a while, but once it's published, like in Taxon, which is a taxonomy journal, a recognized research journal, that starts the ball rolling. And it can, sometimes it's very quick, and other times it can take a few years for databases to populate.
Do you think that with more opportunity for DNA, name change will be
Yes.
accepted more quickly now that we have more quote unquote proof?
Yeah, but the joke among taxonomists is the lumper, as Carol brought up, the lumpers and the splitters. Those are two different fighting factions. And so they're not always going to agree. The DNA, yes, there's going to be, I think, a lot of regrouping of things. And so there will be name changes. And there'll probably be a consensus. Um, yeah, I agree with you. I think it will happen more quickly, but we've got egos involved, and there's people get on either side of a fence, and sometimes it can take a while. So yeah, I expect changes.
Well, I would just settle for the fact that all of you do your very best at pronouncing the names you're given.
You did great. I remember in school, I was told in college, we were told by a professor that it didn't matter how you pronounce it, just say it with authority, and they'll believe you.
There it is. Any other questions? We are right at the half-hour mark or 1 hour mark. So,
Okay. Well, if there aren't any more questions, then I just want to thank you so much, Nancy and Carol. Like Ronnie and Nancy were saying, it's always important to list the Latin names of the plant when discussing essential oils or writing about essential oils. And this presentation gave us tools to know how to stay up to date because that's really important. And I was looking, and a lot of people are saying, well, now they have to change their educational materials, and they're really grateful for this information. So thank you so much. And then next month on March 18th at 6:30 Mountain Time, Jim Harrison will present Essential Oils and the Neurocosmetic Pathway, Skin, Scent, and Receptor Response. Jim will explore neuroimmunocutaneous endocrine, or the NICE network, and how essential oils communicate through surface receptors, TPR channels, cannabinoid, and olfactory receptors. And then also, if anyone knows of someone who'd be a great presenter or have a topic they're really interested in for monthly webinars, please shoot us an email with the details at education@alliance-aromatherapist.org. And I put those up above. The different links I'm going to mention. To receive your CE credits for this evening's presentation, please go to the AIA website and answer 3 questions about tonight's webinar in the AIA classroom within the Members Access page. For non-members, write to info@alliance-aromatherapist.org, and they'll talk you through the process to obtain your CE. If you're not a member but would like to learn more, you can contact the membership committee, and I've got that link in there too, membership@alliance-aromatherapist.org. And thank you so much for joining us for this presentation tonight, hosted by the Education Committee and presented by the AIA Research Academy. As always, we meet on the 3rd Wednesday of the month, and we look forward to bringing you more aromatic wisdom. See you next month on March 18th.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Bye. Bye.
That wraps up today's session. Thanks for tuning into the AIA Research Academy. This academy exists thanks to the generous support of the Gafase Foundation and is here to make aromatherapy research fun, accessible, and relevant. Our mission is simple yet powerful: to educate, inspire, and connect a global community committed to advancing the science of aromatherapy. We envision a future where research is not just part of the conversation, but the culture. The best part, access is completely free. Simply sign up through the link in the description box below. And if you're an AIA member, the Academy is already part of your member benefits, putting powerful resources right at your fingertips. If you're passionate about deepening your understanding of aromatherapy through research, you're in the right place. Be sure to subscribe and hit the notification bell to stay connected with our latest sessions. We appreciate your curiosity, your time, and your commitment to learning.